Hello, welcome and welcome back. My name is TK, and I'm going to give you a very spoiled book review of The Valley of Horses, written by Jean M. Auel, published April 13th, 1982. Alright, so the way this book is set up, it's basically following two characters' journeys, and then they meet toward the end, and yeah, they go off and have lovely adventures afterwards. That's a very short and sweet synopsis of the Valley of Horses. I'm going to go further into the characters and the pros and cons, my personal pros and cons of the book. The way I'm going to do this is I basically, because of the way the book is set up, it's pretty much set up in two different parts that are kind of intertwined. Uh, which is a very interesting concept, actually. It's very cool. But I'm going to start off with Jondalar and his journey, and then I'm going to move on to Ayla and her journey, and then we'll go and see what happens after they get together. So, who is Jondalar? Jondalar is a young man from a human settlement who has decided to make a journey which is part of his cultural heritage, which young people kind of like go off and explore the land, and sometimes they come back, and sometimes they don't. And it's just kind of like a rite of passage for some young people in this culture. So he is going out on a journey with his younger brother, uh, Thorin. Thorian, I think, yeah, I think it's Thorian. So I'm sorry about that mispronunciation, but that's his younger brother, and they are on a journey. So yeah, one good thing about this aspect of the book is that introducing Jondalar in this respect and the way that they kind of like move through the landscape together, they're able to meet different settlements of human beings, and each settlement has kind of a different cultural background and ways of doing things, and like different like individual rights and whatnot. But overall, they all belong to an overall culture, which is kind of like an earth goddess worshiping culture, cult type deal. Um, so they all have like a basis of understanding of where they're coming from, and what they hold sacred and what they hold important on like the base level. But then each settlement has like different layers and different ways of like participating in rights and ways of like appropriating resources and building their houses and stuff. So it's very cool to be able to kind of explore that through the eyes of a young man that's seeing it all new for himself too. So that's kind of a very cool plot device. And again, Yul is so good at painting pictures. She's so good at making you be there, and that's something that a lot of writers don't have. And this is something you can kind of like fully immerse yourself and kind of like explore and kind of mentally explore, what it would be like to be out there and what your culture would be like, what your settlement might be like, which is always really cool when a book kind of like lets you think and lets you kind of like explore in your own mind how it could have been. And she even like took survival courses in Southern Oregon for this book, and you can really tell, because she definitely has very descriptive things like hunting techniques, fire making techniques, how to dress an animal, weather save, basic weather survival techniques, stuff like that. And it's incorporated into the book, and it's incorporated in the book in a very realistic way, and that's really cool to me. Another thing that this story kind of introduces to, and which is kind of like a plot device throughout the rest of the series, is kind of antagonistic feelings between the clan or Neanderthals, the people that adopted Ayla and who were introduced in the clan of the Cave Bear. They are seen as less than and as like animals, but then they're kind of seen like that. But then also like the others, aka humans, they also acknowledge that they're not bears. They're not like just animals, because there are actually groups of like humans that run around and like in the books that run around and rape and abuse Neanderthals just because they can. And they're not running around and doing this to other animals. They're doing this to Neanderthals. And this is like brought up a couple times in the book, and I'm pretty sure that yes, this is kind of like how it could have been, because there is like they Neanderthals and human beings did coexist for thousands of years, but the Neanderthals kind of like died out. And this is kind of putting out a theory of like why and how it might have been in present sense. With this other species that is so close to your own, but then you're kind of fighting for the same resources. So in order to like kind of make it okay to fight for these resources, you kind of like have to make them less than human, so it's okay to abuse them and to push them out of their land and stuff, which is kind of cool concepts to think on, especially with like decolonization and racism and like white supremacy and all that stuff. I mean, it kind of makes you think like that, and it kind of like brings up questions, because it definitely brings up questions and has a lot of like thought experiments with it, which I think is a pro for this bit of the story. Let's go to the cons. Jondalar. I don't like Jondalar personally. I At first, when I was a kid, he was all right. I mean, I was a little infatuated. I'll be honest, but I was like a preteen. I didn't know what I know now, but now it's just I don't know. I mean, it just annoys me. He annoys me. I'm kind of an old fucker now, so I guess maybe younger teens and younger kids and their thought processes maybe frustrate me a bit more now. But even though there's kind of a con, I don't like the character. The fact that GM Eel wrote him so vividly and so realistically, I can actually have like personal feelings against him. That's actually, really a pro in Gene's and Miss Eel's corner. But that's my con as far as like what I don't like about that part. And Jondalar, I mean, yeah, even in this book, honestly, this book, he really rubs me the wrong way, and I'll let you know toward the end why I'm like, this guy, and I'm so done hearing about his big penis. I'm sorry, I don't care about how big his penis is, because apparently it's like the biggest penis that anybody's ever seen, and it's like magic. John Dollar has like a magic penis, and like when he's like roaming around the land, he's like meeting all these different cultures and like being asked to come into their ceremonies, which a lot of their ceremonies involve sexual activity, and they're called like mother worshiping ceremonies. So it's like big orgies, pretty much. Which brings me to first rites. Oh, yeah, first rights. So problematic. It's really problematic. I mean, is separated from like modern stuff and like modern morals and whatnot, and thinking that this is like a brand new culture and like they're more innocent. Okay, if you take it like that, this is like the innocent children, the children of the earth. Okay, all right, they're innocent, blah blah blah. But Okay, but first rights. So, what are first rights? First rights in this book series, first rights in the culture is when a young girl becomes a woman, quote unquote, becomes a woman, starts her period. She is considered to be kind of an in between spot before she's made a woman. And the way she's made a woman, she has to be opened by a man. Pretty much, she has to have sex with the guy to officially become opened to receive the mother's blessing and become pregnant. And there's a whole culture around this, and people are groomed to, accept this as normal. And it's not normal. I'm sorry. It's very problematic. I have a lot of issues with it, and it's a big part of like Jondalar's story. It's a huge part of Jondalar's story. Of course, with his magic penis, is a big story. It's a big part of the story because it involves his penis, so it has to be important. So yeah, I mean, I get it, but it's gross to me. And the more I skip those parts, all those like first rate parts, I skip because it's just not it's not hot. It's not for me. Um, and I'm not sure if it was meant to be hot, but it's not. Anyway, so yeah, that's John Lamar's story. The pros and the cons. Let's go to Ayla's story. Yay, Ayla. So Ayla is a young woman that was exorcised from her clan, from her people, from the people that adopted her. She has to leave them. She had to leave her son. She had to leave everybody. She saw her, father figure dead. Before she had to go, there was an earthquake and she had to go. And she's trauma ridden. She has a lot of stuff on her head and on her heart, and she's like lost. She's like 13. She's wandering the fucking Great Plains. It's summertime now, but she knows that she needs to find a place. She needs to find a place to stay, and winter. So she finds a valley, and there's horses in it, and hence the name Valley of the Horses. But yeah, Isla is one of my favorite characters of all time, honestly. So I don't really have a lot of cons with this one, but I do have some. I do have some. Here's the pros. Her personal healing journey is really cool. Because like I said, she was very traumatized. She had like a lot of shit going on. She was very young, and she kind of like is all alone. And the process of her like making the mental, because there's a couple times when she actually like almost gives up and kind of like says, okay, I'm done. And like one time she almost throws herself off a cliff and she doesn't. And just seeing her battle, just against herself and the elements, and it's just her, and it's really incredible, and I really admire that. And I think that Miss Ewell definitely was coming from maybe from some experience, and you can tell. You can definitely tell. I'm reading my notes. Oh, and during this, she introduces animal husbandry to this series. Basically, she hunts the horses because she has to eat, and one of the horses that she actually kills had a baby, had a foal. And so she ends up raising this foal, and she and this foal grow up together, and she names it Winnie. I'm not going to try to make the horse sound because in the book she doesn't like, because she was raised by a clan, she doesn't speak words. She like uses hand signs and like stuff like that. So it's really cool the way Gene and Mule like kind of describes, the way that they kind of like co-train each other. it's really cool. It's a cool story. Later on, they do actually find a lion cub too, and she ends up raising the lion. That's very cool. The lion comes up later in the series as well, so watch out for him. Ah, gosh. Yeah, that covers my pros. I do have some cons. So, just like Jondalar has like a magic penis, Ayla apparently invents everything. She discovers everything. Like, she discovers like how to make fire with like a flint stone and like iron pyrite. She learns how to domesticate animals. She learns how to like there's so much, and it's like I get that Miss Ewell is trying to kind of like introduce these cool the invention of this and the invention of that and the invention of the other thing, but wow, it's a lot. It's like she discovers she's like the goddess. She just finds everything and she discovers everything, which is kind of like okay, the first read's fine, but then the more you read it, and later in the series, it's just beaten into you. It's beaten the fuck into you, and I can't. So yeah, that's the only con, and it's not really a hard con. You know, I mean, it's still I would stay in the valley. It's cool. You know, I like that whole process, and that's my con. So Ayla and Jondalar, they meet in the valley. So Jondalar and his brother go on their journey, and along the way, so both of their journeys, Ayla and Jondalar are both like kind of wandering. Well, Jondalar is wandering for 3 years, 3 years, and Ayla is in the valley for 3 years. So Ayla's stationary, and Jondalar is wandering around. Jondalar's brother actually meets somebody like on the journey and marries her, and they kind of like hang out for a while. But then the brother's wife dies along with their kid, and it's horrible. So Thorin decides that he's gonna finish the journey. He's gonna follow the river, the Great Mother River, all the way down to the end, and then keep going. And Jondalar decides to go with him because it's like he's worried and he can't let his brother go without him because it's like he'll never see him again. He can't deal with that. So they go to the end of the Great Mother River, and there's some adventures here and there, and then they're wandering along the plains, and then they're caught in a lion attack. And luckily, one of the lions that attacks the two brothers is actually the lion cub that Ayla raised in the valley. So when Ayla hears the men screaming, she's able to ride Winnie over to the fucking canyon and save Jondalar. She's not able to save Thorin. Thorin's dead. But Jondalar is near death. He's almost dead. But she's able to put him on the horse and drag him down back to her cave. And then she starts healing him. And again, it's like, here's another invention from Ayla. She invents stitches. She invents stitches. Which is, okay, another thing. But, I mean, also, like, the process, like, the inventions, inventing things, it's kind of cool. It makes sense, like, thought-wise, but also it's like, okay, another thing. Anyway, so they're sick in the valley, and they start to have a love story. And the thing is, since Ayla can't speak and can only use hand signs, Jondalar is can't communicate with her, but is infatuated with her. He's like, oh man, this is a hot chick, and he gets creepy on her. She doesn't not like it, but also it's really awkward the way the interactions go and the way that okay, there is the plot device they can't communicate with each other directly at first, but then later on, Jondalar does help her, speak, as humans do, with words, and they start to communicate. But still, there's like Jondalar just has this like fantasy that Ayla is just like part of this cult, like the mother cult, and like she's like this priestess and like special person, and so he has this whole fantasy in his head. And then once they start talking, she tells him that actually I was raised by the clan, and fucking Chandler freaks the fuck out and calls her gross and disgusting and this and the other, and like this big thing. But then apparently the character arc is that he kind of like he decides to kind of like humor her pretty much, but he doesn't actually like change his thoughts. He's still ashamed and like doesn't want anybody else to know about her past. But because he likes Punangi, and because apparently they have a perfect fit. I mean, apparently his big super penis is able to fit into her perfect vagina, and they're like one. So Jondalar doesn't want to give away or give up this magic, this magic pussy, pretty much. Um, I mean, he's infatuated with other things, aspects of Isla, but that's like something they talk about a lot. And the two of them have first rates, and it's like it's so weird because Jondalar is like, oh, I like this because it's almost like first rights because she's nervous and has never been with a human, but and has never known like gentleness and whatnot. But also, I don't have to hold back, with my super big penis. I don't have to like hold back and just like let go. And he loves this. He loves it. It's like the best thing. Is what he's been searching for. So, because he's like infatuated with Punangi, he is like, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, call your people disgusting and stupid and like, animals. I didn't mean to call your kid, an abomination. Didn't mean to, pull back in absolute disgust when you told me. Didn't mean that, it's fine. Let's go on a journey together. So, so they make up, and God damn it, Isla. Yeah, it is like she gets it. She stands up for herself and whatnot, but it's also like, uh, I get that you're lonely. I get this is like the first guy you've ever met, but Chandler isn't that special. I'm sorry, he's not. He's mid. Jondalar is mid. He is, and Ayla could do better. She really can. And unfortunately, she doesn't really ever find that out in the series. But yeah, so they're together. They fell in love. They're off on an adventure, and they run into another group of people who are laughing. And that's it. That's the end of the book. Good book, y'all. It really is a good book. I know I ragged on John Alar a lot, but he needs ragging on. He really does. And he doesn't get much better in the series. Actually, it gets kind of fucking worse. Um, I'll be covering that later. But thank you for listening. If you like it, put a little thumbs up, comment. Let me know what you thought about the Valley Horse if you've ever read it. If you agree or disagree, how do you feel about John Alar and his magic penis? I mean, my God, this fucking guy. Uh, thank you for listening. Thank you for existing. Yeah, thank you.